Well, we're halfway through 2019, and already the fine folks of Walt Disney Motion Picture Studios have gifted us 2 reboots of their classic animated films. We've got Dumbo, directed by Tim Burton, and we also got Aladdin, directed by Guy Ritchie, and now we've got The Lion King, directed by Jon Favreau, who previously gave us the Jungle Book remake. That's how many of these things they've made. And The Lion King? It sucks. Welcome back to the channel this week, everybody. We are reviewing The Lion King today. Not The Lion King from 1994. That movie's precious. We're reviewing the new one that just came out today, or whenever the hell you're watching this. And it's not good. It's a pretty rough movie. This is going to be a pretty negative review. It's going to be pretty scathing. I literally just watched the movie, so it's not like I sat and took time to gather my thoughts and analyze my feelings about the film. This is just straight from the tap. I just watched this movie. I didn't like it. You guys are going to get an earful about it. Before we get any further, I just want to point out that I just watched the original Lion King 2 nights ago in preparation to watch the new Lion King. And if you're going to see this Lion King movie, if you want to give it a chance, despite me saying it sucks, because, you know, my opinion is going to be different than yours, there are people who are definitely going to enjoy this movie. If you do want to see it, just don't rewatch the original at all. Just go in with the vaguest childhood recollections of what you liked about the original Lion King, and then go from there. It's going to be probably a much smoother experience for you than it was for me. Watching this movie was something of like a roller coaster for me, okay? It's no secret that I was not looking forward to it. I already talked about it in my Detective Pikachu review. I reviewed the Jungle Book that Jon Favreau directed when it came out originally, and I hated that at the time too. You can look in the description below to see a link to my review from then. And, you know, I just, personally, I'm not even that against the idea of Disney doing these remakes where they're just redoing their entire canon, like, piece by piece, but with live-action actors. I'm not against that, even though I don't have any interest in most of those either. But at the very least, I think we should be able to put a moratorium on doing the ones that are largely about talking animals, because doing photorealistic versions of talking animals is dumb and weird, and I don't think it's conducive to good filmmaking. That's just how I feel about it. But I still tried to go into this one with an open mind. And watching the movie with an open mind led to me having like what I can only describe as like a roller coaster of emotions, except the only 3 emotions were anger, and then is disappointment an emotion? And then like brief fleeting moments of like, oh, that's nice. The Lion King basically opens up nearly shot for shot like the 1994 Lion King movie, okay? Like the opening sequence, like with Mufasa holding Simba up in front of all of Pride Rock, is like nearly beat for beat identical. It might actually be identical, but it's hard to tell because the Lion King is like gorgeous and like beautiful colors and like vibrant and memorable, and the new Lion King looks like just like a nature documentary. And I know that there are beautiful colors in nature, but they didn't pick any of them. I did at least understand a hint of why people wanted to see a Lion King reboot that looked like this, you know, that had this specific style. Because there's like a sense of grandeur to seeing like Rafiki carrying like baby Simba, and it's like a real monkey, mandrill, whatever he is, and like a little like lion cub, and then on a little rock, and there's all these animals. Like there's an epic scope to it. You're like, oh, that's cool. I get it. I understand why someone could like this. It's just that watching it for longer than that 2 or 3 minutes, it's just weird. It reminds me of like anytime you see those like Imgur posts going around where it's like, hey, look, it's The Simpsons, but they're realistic. And they're like horrifying, you know? It's like, that's funny or cute in a couple of JPEGs, and then I move on with my life. But a 2-hour film is like a lot of JPEGs pushed together to make like a DCP format, and it's very different. From there, though, like it's like this really big high up and then immediately down moment, because the movie opens like, oh, this is beautiful, like the majesty of the opening of The Lion King. Circle of Life is playing, like this is like wild. And then immediately it cuts to that sequence in the original film where Scar's about to eat like a rat. We're just like following a rat around the wilderness for a minute, like a nature documentary, and you're like, huh. There's no like, the camera doesn't, you know, like do things. It's not like kinetic the way like the animated version is. It's just watching a rat, and then you meet Scar, and then you meet everybody else, and then you meet John Oliver doing Zazu and yada yada, and like all the scenes that are pretty efficient in the original and pretty straightforward, take like 2 to 3 times as long in this version. So it's even longer scenes of just dialogue, but you don't have like expressive character design and like emotional stuff on the faces. It's just lions just looking at each other, just kind of talking. Yeah. I mean, one of the lines is James Earl Jones. That's really great. I'm glad he came back. That's super cool. But still, it's just a regular fucking lion. My beef is that, at least in the Jungle Book, which I hated, there was like one human being for the fake animals to interact with. So there was like a little bit of push and pull and conflict and like visual interest because you saw like a human and then you saw like CGI animals. Here it's just CGI animals. There's no humans. Lion King, more so than the Jungle Book, is sort of a movie where the animals are all like anthropomorphized. They're not like actual animals interacting with humans, and they're humans in this world. It is a world where all the animals, like, that's all that matters. This is like a secret hidden world where like the animals, this is what like a dramatized version of what the animal kingdom is like. It's like literally a kingdom. The lion is the king. Like, you know, here's some stuff from Hamlet. Here's some stuff from the Bible. Here's a cool story. Here's some stuff we pretend we didn't steal from Kimball the White Lion. You know, like, I get it. It creates one unique, interesting thing. And it's obviously something that's endured for a lot of people. It's been a huge pop cultural touchstone for ages, you know. I understand there's this impulse now, let's just do it again, but bigger and the larger budget and, you know, the stars of today and James Earl Jones. But in practice, it creates a film that is just wooden and weird and gray, and it's just awful. Like everything about it. For every moment where you look at the frame and you think, "Wow, this is like really impressive how realistic these animals look." Like, look at the lion mane hair like blowing in the wind and stuff. For every moment like that, there's another moment where it's just a bunch of animals standing around awkwardly blocked and staged because there's not like very creative framing and stuff in the film, and you're just looking at animals and like they're talking and like the actors are giving it their all with these vocal performances, but they're not really lining up with the physical performances that you're seeing. It's even worse when like the musical set pieces happen. I didn't realize they were keeping pretty much all the big songs from the original film. All those songs are still in this movie and they're re-recorded with the new performers and stuff, but like, man, you know, you watch The Lion King and like I Just Can't Wait to Be King is like this big like boisterous sequence, and it's like fun, and like there's a lot of stuff happening in the background, and it feels like a musical sequence in a musical. Here, like when the songs happen, the movie stays pretty much equally static, kind of. You know, there's like a couple of shots where like, I don't know, like the camera's like moving forward, and like all the giraffes like heads are like lining up and stuff, and it kind of has like that interesting parallax. But for the most part, it's like, oh look, more animals. They look just like real animals. Fucking amazing. It's really frustrating for me because I expected to like hate this movie, and I do. I don't like it at all. But I really anticipated thinking I was going to hate it so much that it would be like a really like entertaining kind of rage. Like I would feel good, like just tearing up a movie. You know, as a critic, sometimes it's kind of fun to do, I guess. But like, I don't feel that. I don't feel like I'm not excited about the fact that I didn't like this movie. I mean, this is a movie made for like families and kids, and I want families and kids to go and have a good time. And I suppose many of them probably will, right? I mean, I watched the movie completely by myself in a dark room. Like, I imagine if I had like friends or like family or like kids with me or something, like I might feel differently. But it just feels so hollow and so boring and so bland. And just, there's this really strange pace to the film that I can't like comprehend. The original Lion King is 89 minutes long. Like the movie itself is basically like 84 minutes, okay? It's like less than an hour and a half. And you know everything that happens in The Lion King, and it all happens in that time span. It is like, boom, Mufasa's dead. Boom, Simba runs away. Boom, here's Timon and Pumbaa. Boom, 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 boom. And before you know it, the movie's over. And that structure is like perfect for an animated movie, and it works, and like, you know, kids have short attention spans, and like, you love it. This is 2 hours. And I thought because like Beyoncé's in it, and she's voicing Nala, and interviews with Favreau where he said he wanted to take more sort of an inspiration from like the Broadway version of the story, like all these different factors. I assume that meant there would be more movie, like there would be more story or something, and there'd be like, I don't know what exactly, but I assume they were going to add stuff. And there's not really added stuff. Nala has more dialogue because Beyoncé probably wanted more dialogue, and that's fine. But, like, that's it? There's, like, Scar has slightly more dialogue. But having watched both films in such proximity, there's not much difference. It's, like, the same story, but a half hour longer and less exciting. And I think there's, like, one new song that's, like, non-diegetic. So, like, it doesn't make any sense why you would drag the story out to this degree. It just makes everything feel more not good. What's really frustrating about the movie is that, as bad as it is and as much as I don't like it, there are a few things in the movie where this approach actually makes the movie have the potential to be better. There are two elements where I thought, at the very least, this is going to be really badass. The one thing I thought was, the stampede scene where Mufasa dies, that's going to be, like, great. It's going to be, like, killer. Because the Jungle Book has, like, similar sequences, and they're very intense, but they really don't match, like, the ferocity of, like, the animated version of The Lion King. And I thought, well, this is such a, like, powerful, dramatic sequence. Maybe with the technology having matured and like Favreau already having made one of these, maybe this is going to be like this is going to be the master set piece. We're going to watch Mufasa die, but like he's really going to get trampled by real animals. It's going to be great. And some of that sequence actually does look kind of killer. Not going to lie, not going to front on it. It looks pretty good, and I was actually digging it. But the way the sequence ends up unfolding, once it actually builds to the emotional crescendo where Mufasa actually dies and his brother betrays him and he falls off the thing and like Simba reacts to seeing his father plummeting to his death, all of the emotion is just drained out of that sequence because it just looks like someone dropped a random lion off a cliff. It doesn't feel like... Mufasa doesn't look like Mufasa. He just looks like a lion. And I'm not saying that I don't care if a lion dies. I'm just saying that I don't care if a generic anything dies in fiction because it's not real. And if you don't make me think of someone as like a real lived-in person thing, then like I'm not going to have any attachment to it. So the shot in the original Lion King where Scar like gets up on his brother and lets him plummet to his death, you're like, oh, that monster. And then you're watching Mufasa fall and you're like, oh God, oh man. Here you're like, what? This is what it actually looks like? You guys spent $200 million on this? Are you serious? And not just that, but then when it cuts to Simba, there's like this horrible like zoom out shot of him just being like, no, my dad! And like, and the animation in the original works and looks really cool, but because everything's so realistic, it just looks like laughable, man. It's really hard not to laugh at. And I know that there's going to be someone who's going to laugh at that scene in the theater this weekend, and everyone's going to call that guy a monster and like ruin it for kids and stuff, and like that is kind of messed up, but like I understand the impulse, man, because it is not a naturally emotionally affecting scene. It just doesn't play. And that's what I mean by the entire approach is wrong. Like, I think some people are going to see this movie and they like the story of The Lion King and they know the characters and they like the new voice actors and stuff, and they're going to be cool with it because they're not really going to question why it looks and feels this way. They're just going to know The Lion King. They're going to do a lot of the work. Like, a lot of, I think, what I've said in other videos, like, Disney's newer movies put so much of the onus of nostalgia on the viewer. They know that you have nostalgia for these things, you have an emotional connection to these things that they built a while ago. They don't have to maintain it anymore. At this point, Disney, in the way they make movies, is like a husband who like swept you off your feet when you met and like whisked you away and like built this whole life with you, but he doesn't do any of that shit anymore. He just comes home from work and he just like is like, what? I'm the love of your life. I'm the guy you married. This is what's up. Don't you remember how great things used to be? I don't have to do them anymore. I can just vaguely gesture off screen to when I was a good, attentive husband. Isn't that enough? And I feel like everyone, including myself in some cases, who regularly watches these movies is like the wife who's just like, okay, well, you know, that's fine. This is fine. This is almost the same. And like you have to force yourself to enjoy it because you have to accept that like these movies aren't going anywhere. The studio's not going anywhere. Like, they own the marketplace and they don't have to innovate or try. It's kind of depressing. Like, you know, it would be really cool if we could all like run away with the mailman or something, but we can't, I guess. The other thing I want to get into that I think this movie had the potential to do something beautiful with is Chiwetel Ejiofor's performance as Scar. Chiwetel Ejiofor, one of my favorite actors like working today. Love this guy. I love him in almost everything. He directed a movie this year. You guys should check that out. It's pretty cool. He's in it as well. And he's just a very talented actor. And I remember thinking, I don't know if he should play Scar, right? I always think of Scar as being Jeremy Irons, like this menacing, mincing, evil, you know, guy. But because of the fact that these are regular-looking animals, they just look normal, regular, actual, lifelike animals, Scar doesn't look like the obvious villain of the movie the way a lot of Disney characters do. Like, Scar doesn't look like Scar in The Lion King from '94. Like, doesn't look like a real lion. He looks like a cartoon evil approximation of a lion. Well, Scar in this movie looks like a lion. He looks like his brother, but like smaller and less strong and like fucked up. He looks like a pathetic shadow of his brother the king. And that's how Chiwetel Ejiofor plays Scar. Like, he's really good. I don't know if it would be fair to say he's better than Jeremy Irons, because at what Jeremy Irons was doing, Jeremy Irons is definitely better at. But everyone else in the movie is kind of retreading similar territory from the original movie because it's largely the same, except him. Scar doesn't seem like an arch evil, like scenery chewing villain. Up until the moment where he betrays his brother and kills him, Scar is played very straight. Like, in the original movie, the notion that anyone would be shocked that Scar was, like, fucked up and evil is, like, ridiculous, because, like, look at him. Like, that guy is obviously up to something. Here, though, that's not how it's played. Like, Ejiofor does this thing where you just think of Scar as being, like, kind of pathetic, kind of a loser, like, in his brother's shadow, and he, like, just has to sort of eat that. So when you meet him and he's just, like, bummed about not being king because his brother had a baby that's the next in line now, Mufasa's like, yeah, well, Simba's going to be king when he grows up. My son's going to be king, and you're just going to be you. And he's like, yeah, that's true. That's long live the king, I guess. You know, like, he's just so wounded and, like, sad and, like, kind of pathetic, you know? And you watch him and you're like, oh, that dude's probably hating life, man. He's never going to be king. His, like, nephew's going to give him orders when he's an adult. That sucks. It doesn't necessarily make you like him more or make you, like, understand why he's, like, turns evil and stuff. It just means that when he's on screen and he becomes manipulative and starts veering in the direction of, like, plotting against his brother, it plays in a more interesting way. Because, like, when he's manipulating Simba, you can see the moments in their interactions where he's like, I gotta kill this guy. I have to kill this kid. Like, I can't do this anymore. You know, in the original movie, the moment where Simba's talking about, like, oh, I'm gonna be king someday. I sing a whole song about it. Scar's like, oh, you'll be king, all right. You know, he's like, obviously is like plotting on his nephew. Here, it's one of the only scenes in the movie that I will say to me is like a good, if not actually better scene than the original. When Simba is talking about the realization that he's gonna be king and like, oh, I'm gonna be king, and like, I'm gonna have to like give you orders and stuff. Like, he's a child coming to the realization that like, I'm a prince, one day I'll be a king, and my uncle, who's an adult and has lived more life than me, is gonna be like subservient to me. That's kind of weird. He doesn't have the capacity to understand why that would make his uncle pissed off. And the camera does this really great like push in and like focus in on Scar's face. And again, the face is not very expressive and all that stuff, but Ejiofor, like the line reading, the way he starts to speak as he's making the realization too, is just like, no, I can't fucking do this. Like, it's so good because everyone else is giving these big, expressive Disney voice acting performances, but then the animals are like not playing ball. Like the animals just look like, hi, I'm a fucking lion. Chiwetel Ejiofor is doing such understated work that it's not weird that his lion isn't like wildly contorting his face, because he's like, he's going for a more subtle performance, and it grows to be more scenery chewing by the end of the film. Like he gets more and more evil and loud and boisterous and stuff, and it's really good. It's really fascinating. It's like the one thing this movie did right. I guess I'll give like a half a thing right to Seth Rogen as Pumbaa, but then we're going to negative like 7 things right for how irritating and insufferable Billy Eichner is as Timon. So like, you know, it's not that the movie is like bad and everyone in it has done a bad job or the songs suck or anything like that. Everything that is wrong with this movie is the way they approached making this movie. It's like one terrible large decision that then poisoned every other thing in the movie. It's just as simple as, don't make a photorealistic version of The Lion King. If they had just made the animals slightly more anthropomorphized or slightly more stylistic, or if they made them look a little bit more unnatural and kind of cartoony and weird, but still, you know, 3D, and they want to show off that hair movement stuff that everyone's obsessed with, I think it could have been a much better movie, because then you could have like done more with it, and you could have done different things with it. Because you have a whole extra half hour of runtime, you could have done more interesting things with the story and the themes. You know, there's little moments where you sort of think that they're going to make more space for creating a serious dichotomy between the circle of life philosophy and the only care about yourself, Hakuna Matata philosophy. Like, there's a little bit of it there, particularly in the way that, like, Nala reacts to grown-up Simba's new philosophy, and, like, the difference between, like, only caring about yourselves versus, like, you know, working for the whole kingdom. Like, there's interesting stuff there, especially considering that, you know, Disney's trying to prey upon like black nostalgia for the Lion King by involving Beyoncé and involving all like this great black cast and like, you know, playing at like those ideas. They at least could have like paid more than lip service to them. But like, you know, there's not room for that. Instead, what happens is there's so much extra space in the plot, and I'm stuck staring at these super realistic animals that my mind just starts to wander, and I start asking questions about things that like I never would have cared about otherwise. Like if there's a Lion King, there's really no room for me to stop and like pick apart continuity. I'm not a continuity pick apart person. I don't like that stuff. I don't care. But here, you know, I'm watching baby cub Simba being told by Timon and Pumbaa that if he wants to eat, he can't eat any animals anymore, and that part of the Hakuna Matata lifestyle is that they're just going to eat bugs every day. And he's like, that's cool. And then he grows up to be a big, strong lion who has subsisted entirely on bugs. Like, I don't know a lot about biology, but I just feel like that's not realistic. Like, he should be more like gaunt. And I'm not a person who thinks that when I watch movies. Like, I don't care about stuff like that. But by taking this creative route to show me the story, that's what it did to my brain. Because they're showing me Animal Planet, Planet Earth documentary, 4K animals, I started thinking about real animals instead of thinking about the story, instead of thinking about like this saga. It's just dumb. Like they made one really loud, dumb decision, and that made everything else stupid. And I hate it, and it sucks. That's The Lion King, man. I don't know. Like I sort of thought this was going to be a video where I would like have fun tearing into it, and I would like make a bunch of mean jokes and stuff, and like laugh. But like the ride home from the theater, like it just like all the energy just got drained out of me just thinking about it. Like this movie sucks. It's not any good. It's not even remotely an improvement on the original, and it's probably going to make like $1 billion in like 4 days. Like I don't even know if there's a point in reviewing Disney released movies anymore, because like what does it matter? They're gonna make $1 billion. They don't even have to be good. They don't even have to be like in good taste, and everyone's gonna see them anyway. Like no one's gonna watch this video and then just go like, you know what? I bought 6 tickets for me and my kids. We're gonna go see something else. That Dom guy's got a good idea. Like these movies are critic proof. These movies are everything proof. It's like a dystopia, you know. Those are my thoughts on The Lion King. Watch something else this week. Or watch The Lion King if you want to. I don't care. The Farewell is releasing this week in limited cities and stuff. If you're in a city that is playing Lulu Wang's The Farewell, that is another movie I sort of expected to hate because I don't like Awkwafina. But it's actually great. It's actually really, really good. And Awkwafina's really, really good in it. And that is a movie that I think you should definitely try to check out. Obviously, if you have a gang of kids, maybe don't take them to see this because it's not that kind of movie. Maybe you just accept that you're going to watch The Lion King anyway. But if you have a choice and you're like an adult and a grown-up who's untethered to little ones, definitely see The Farewell instead. The Lion King sucks. That's it for me this week, guys. Next week, we've got a big movie that's coming out that I'm going to review for Friday. And then probably a couple of smaller videos earlier in the week. I have some other stuff that I've been watching and thinking about that I want to do shorter, smaller videos about, so I'm going to try to do that. So, you know, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you do subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notifications from these new videos that are kind of unscheduled or going to come out. And if you liked it, hit a thumbs up. If you love Disney and like you're afraid that they're going to take away your season pass, you can hit thumbs down to like boo me or whatever. And you can share comments below about your thoughts on The Lion King if you've already seen it or if you plan on seeing it, anything like that. That's it for me. Have a great weekend. Don't see The Lion King. Disney is scum. Bye.